Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about my $21 million webinar. That's right, Gray Shirt Greg instead of EF Shirt Greg is going to tell you exactly how we made $21 million from a single webinar. Hey everyone, my name is Gregory Elfring. I am the Director of Marketing over at Empire Flippers, where we help people just like you buy and sell online businesses every single day. And if that didn't sound like a super sketchy way to start a video, well, just you wait, it gets even better. Because right now I'm looking at my HubSpot analytics, and it tells me I just did a webinar about a little bit over a month ago now that has generated influenced $21.8 million worth of revenue on our marketplace. Sounds like a pretty successful use of my time, right? I mean, right there, HubSpot is just giving me tons of ammo to show that my marketing is working great. Well, here's the thing. When I click through here and look at the attributed revenue at the actual report instead of the overall webinar, instead of the influence of $21 million, I see attributed revenue of $3.8 million. Like, okay, cool. Well, it's not $21 million, but I guess I'll take it for a little 45-minute, hour-long webinar I did. But here's the thing. That is a lie in multiple different ways. So I wanted to shoot this video because it is very easy to get tricked by your own tools. And it is very easy in general to be tricked by people saying, oh, I'm doing all this amount of revenue. I'm doing 6 figures easy. Oh, my e-commerce store is blowing up. My SaaS is blowing up. The MRR is through the roof, right? These are all fantastic stories, but usually there is not the full truth in it. So let's explore today what actually happened in this webinar. So last month in March, I did a webinar where, and hopefully this video is actually probably going to be longer than last month because this is at the end of April when I'm shooting this, and who knows when I'll upload this. But the point is, when I did this webinar in March, it lasted for about an hour. I had several people on, but I think consistently, like congruent, the peak was like maybe 20 people on this webinar. Now, granted, at Empire Flippers, we deal with high ticket sales. So our average sales price is over $500,000, for example. So it doesn't take me that much to actually get into reasonably a 7-figure range from the result of some kind of marketing that we did. But here's the thing. The influence, so that $21 million that HubSpot told me I influence, is literally just anyone who opened up that email, anyone who clicked on an ad in that campaign, anyone who registered but didn't even attend the webinar. Maybe they didn't even watch the replay. So they were still buying things. They were still purchasing things, but they just happened to open up my email. So because they took no action outside of that, it is very reasonable to assume my webinar actually had pretty much zero effect on that $21 million in generated revenue. Now, we did generate that $21 million, that is a real number, but it didn't come from that webinar. And likewise, attributed revenue is wrong because $3.8 million in revenue means that's how much deals we got done. And I know for a fact we haven't sold any businesses that were submitted through that webinar. But I also know over $10 million of businesses were actually submitted from that webinar. Now, those businesses may never see the light of day on our marketplace. We reject 92% of businesses that attempt to sell with us just because we try to keep as high of quality as we can on our curated marketplace. That's both a benefit for buyers and sellers by having that real high quality kind of pressure that we put on, or pressure we put on ourselves, right? So this goes back to what I was saying. It's very easy to get starry-eyed, both in marketing, but also as an entrepreneur. If you're an e-commerce business owner, it can be quite easy, actually, to hit 6 figures in revenue if you know what you're doing. But that revenue might be misguiding you in ways you don't realize until you look deeper at your profit and loss statement. And this is something we do all the time for e-commerce entrepreneurs. They will give us this beautiful e-commerce brand. We will go build their profit and loss statement to show them what they're actually making. And then they are very depressed because it turns out, hey, guess what? Revenue is not the same as net profit, though it is a wonderful metric to talk about at cocktail parties or if you're selling a course, it is not the real world number. So a lot of e-commerce businesses, they're operating on a margin between say 25 to, on the upper ends, maybe 45% margin. So basically any revenue that is produced, you can take 45% of that at the high end, and that's the actual net profit that that entrepreneur is taking home. And I wanted to shoot this video because of how easy it is to get lost in what is more or less vanity metrics. As an entrepreneur, you need to stay on top of everything. The thing you need to stay on top the least is usually vanity metrics. Typically, when someone talks about vanity metrics, they're referring to how many tweets I got, how many likes I got, how many email subscribers I got. All of these, in a way, are good. You want more of those. Ideally, in a perfect world, they're all of equal quality. But they don't really matter that much at the end. What really matters is who is buying, how are they buying, and am I being effective? And there's a bunch of different ways to track that. There's a bunch of different ways to look at it. And it's going to depend a lot on the kind of business you're in. For example, a DTC commerce brand has all sorts of edges in marketing that a long sales cycle, such as us, don't have. For example, an e-commerce store might have the ability to track the data of their sales cycle through a Facebook ad and a pixel, and they see like, okay, on average it takes 20 days for someone to buy my product. Great. Versus us, it can be 255 days before someone actually buys or sells a business, because there's all this trust we have to build, right? So basically, a lot of the marketing tools we use aren't really set up for this super long sales cycle that sometimes requires literally hundreds of touch points. So what do you do in this situation? So if you're running a SaaS business, for example, this problem that happened to me, where I have this $21 million webinar, could actually happen to you too, in a sense, because especially if you're in an enterprise level SaaS, that could be a long sales cycle. What do you do in a long sales cycle? How do you measure your marketing? Well, there's a few things you can do. One of the first things I look at is the top of the market metrics. So for us, it would be subscribers, which is a vanity metric for sure, because I can just go pay someone off of Fiverr to generate me 10,000 email lists overnight. Like, boom, check it out, boss. I just generated all these subscribers, right? Well, those aren't useful subscribers. So we want to always do everything we can, understanding what kind of quality we're going after, and try to move the number up by only doing things that we think will lead to quality subscribers. But that is the first positive sign. And in a long sales cycle, you want to look at those early positive signs, because you're not really going to be in our case, if we're going to run an ad, we're not going to run it for 255 days as an experiment to see if it works, right? That is not a great use of time either. But we are looking for these early indicators of positivity in our marketing funnel all the time. And on this webinar specifically, even though the data that HubSpot has given to me is wrong, I do know it was profitable because we actually manually tracked where did those subscribers and registers go once they left the webinar. We saw them interact on our HubSpot. We saw the kind of opportunities that were created. We got feedback from sales. How was it like talking to this person or that person? I saw you had a call with Mr. X, right? So there's a bunch of different ways you can track this, but in a long sales cycle, you really want to look at those early indicators. And likewise, in a short sales cycle, you don't want to get to a point where you're talking like an ad agency. And what I mean by that is ad agencies will often say, oh, I had a 2x, 3x ROAS, revenue, return on ad spend, basically. And they're always looking at revenue. So if you're selling a product, say for $100, they make you $2,000 and they spent $1,000 on that ad, say, hey, I made you double your money. But that's not true, because that $2,000 is revenue. So they actually made you less than what they're saying. They're only thinking about revenue, but you as an entrepreneur, you need to constantly be thinking about net profit. Always measure things by net profit. And anything you do in marketing, since we all know most marketing does not work, no matter what the marketers want to tell you, most of it will not work. You need to prep some margin of error into that. So for an entrepreneur, say they have a profit margin of 35%, you should be running your marketing at a lower profit margin. Just estimate that your margin is going to be lower. So maybe you run your marketing at a 25 or 30% margin. If you can be profitable on that ad, using a 25, 30% margin, and your average margin is actually 35, you're baking in some room of failure for your marketing. So that's it. That's the whole video. My grand $21 million webinar, which unfortunately has led to 0 Lambos in my life. So that's eye-opening and unfortunate. But hopefully you got a little bit of value out of this very rambling video. I just think it's funny because there are all these tools available to us as marketers and entrepreneurs. But if you just took the tool at face value, you can make some really poor decisions. So it's always worth to validate. In fact, anytime I see something that happens in our funnel where it looks, oh my God, we are crushing it, I just instantly think we made a mistake somewhere. Something happened, something bad happened, and we need to figure out what the problem is. So I always operate from that mindset, and not because I'm negative, just because I've been marketing long enough to know that there usually is some problem if you see something going through the roof. I had something a few months ago when, I guess almost a year ago now, where I was really trying to learn paid media. I took a bunch of courses, I was studying, all this kind of stuff, and one of my ads started taking off. I mean, to the moon, right? If this was cryptocurrency, all my crypto friends would be, laughing with me and like, yes, you're going to the moon. But what ended up happening, so this Facebook ad of mine that started producing all these seller submissions for us, I approached it with the same thing. I said, something is wrong, pause the ad, not scaling it to figure out what's happening. And I looked at it, and what had happened was during an update of our software, of our engineered platform that we have to help people buy and sell online businesses, the destination URL that I had behind the paywall, this is back when we used to have listing fees, which now we don't, but the pixel destination was behind that paywall. That's how I knew a conversion happened. Well, that got moved up further because it showed that if we move that page up further, it actually helped conversions overall. So we did that, but we didn't actually know when that update happened. And so I still had my destination pixel on this URL that was now before the paywall. So that is why I suddenly became an ad ninja overnight. Now, if you're a less experienced marketer, you might be thinking, I need to scale this campaign. And if you're just believing what Facebook ads are telling you, or even what your HubSpot is telling you, you might be making some poor mistakes. So what I'm going to end this video on is, don't always believe what the marketing tool tells you. Verify, especially if things are going super, super well suddenly out of nowhere, it seems. Verify what's happening. 2, revenue is almost just as bad as measuring likes and tweets and shares on Facebook, because it is ultimately a vanity metric in a lot of ways. So don't fall into the trap of like, oh, I'm getting 2x, 3x ROAS. Ask yourself what your actual net profit return is, and that is going to treat you much better, especially if you operate with all of your marketing functions with an assumption of a lower profit margin than normal. And that is always going to keep you safe, because now you're baking in that margin of failure for yourself. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely hit the like button and subscribe. Leave a comment down below telling me you did both. And of course, if you really love this video, go ahead and click the link below where you can either sell your business right now. I will help you lose your business, where you will get maybe 6 figures or 7 figures in the bank, or I can help you buy tons of different businesses when you register for the link below. We have tons of them on the marketplace that are always ready to sell. And if you need help on either or, we're always willing to help whether you use this or not. So that's it. Talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Bye.